Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. Today we've got a very special edition of Mandalorian news, so before we dive into it, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below if you've not done so, and also be sure to give that bell a good old tickle to be alerted every time that I post a new video. So without much further ado, and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. As 3PO says, thank the maker, because we begin by talking about George Lucas himself. In a new interview with John and Dave with Entertainment Weekly, the two of them addressed cameos in The Mandalorian going forward. Now I did cover the bulk of this interview in yesterday's video, but I wanted to save the George Lucas part of it for a separate one because it is an interesting point of discussion in and of itself. So how did we get to this stage? Well, as you're probably aware, George Lucas does visit the set of Mando regularly when they film, and while he doesn't have any major creative input, he still guides Dave Filoni along the way. The two of them still have an amicable relationship. They worked together for over a decade. We often call Dave the apprentice of George. So throughout filming of The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, no doubt Ahsoka and probably Skeleton Crew, collectively they've sought his advice on various things, ranging from Grogu's name to his thoughts on various in-universe locations, connections to the Star Wars universe, and the volume. So while speaking with Entertainment Weekly, John and Dave discussed the different actors they were able to bring to the world of Star Wars through The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. They explicitly praised Amy Sedaris for her role as Peli Motto, who as Dave pointed out, is now a staple of the Star Wars universe, but maybe not the Jawas that she dates. And then Jon Favreau joked that the creator of the Star Wars universe himself, George Lucas, would be the best cameo. Now this was all said tongue-in-cheek in a clearly joking manner, but considering the possibility, Dave Filoni went on to say he finds it hard to imagine. But if you were to bring him into the show as a character, Filoni said he'd have Lucas play the son of Baron Papanoida. Baron Papanoida was the character George played in Revenge of the Sith, the chairman of Pantora, one of the moons of the planet Auto Plutonia. We see him during the scene where Anakin is running up the steps to see Palpatine at the Opera House on Coruscant. Favreau then goes on to talk about how fortunate he is to have had Lucas on the set of The Mandalorian and admits he's learnt so much from him. Here is John's full quote. Well, he's been on the set when Dave's been directing, so I love watching Dave and George together. George I have tremendous respect for. I've been very fortunate to have great conversations where I've learned a lot, but when I see Dave and George Lucas together, that's like a whole other. And then he looks over at Dave and says, "'Cause how long did you work together? 12 years. Dave Filoni then goes into brief detail about the quote masterclass that it was to be able to work with George, and then he stated that he's trying to pass on what he's learned from him when it comes to these projects. Dave Filoni then opens up about his biggest responsibility to keep the George Lucas legacy alive. Now, in my opinion, it's great that George is there if John and Dave need to consult him, especially creatively, and if they do decide to bring him into the show, and George is up for it of course, I think he should cameo in the last ever episode of The Mandalorian, like a wonderful send-off for the show. Or even better, what if he directs the last episode? I don't think many fans would say no to that opportunity, but unfortunately, given contract agreements, and maybe even for personal reasons, it's very unlikely George would agree to direct in Star Wars again, but I'd love for him to cameo as a character. Who knows, maybe he will play the son of Baron Papanoida, but I can't imagine George at his age agreeing to sit in the makeup chair for 7 hours just to be dyed blue with a funny hat. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see George Lucas return to Star Wars, so to speak? Do you want him to direct an episode of The Mandalorian, or maybe appear as a character? And what do you think of my idea of him appearing in the last episode? That'd be incredible. So now guys, we are going to talk about Leia and Han's canon wedding. That is quite a funny story. But first of all, once again we find ourselves talking about Rogue Squadron, the indefinitely delayed Star Wars movie, which Kathleen Kennedy confirmed herself is not going forward, at least not in the near future. Taika Waititi's movie comes first, and that's not going to be until 2025. So why are we bringing up Rogue Squadron once again? Because several things have been happening over the last week, which suggests something weird is going on. So first of all, on the updated Disney release schedule, they note that Rogue Squadron is still releasing in 2023. For that to be even remotely possible, filming would have to have begun months ago, but that is not the case. It's not in production, and Lucasfilm have pretty much shelved it. Not only this, but here in the UK, Rogue Squadron is listed as coming soon and has been featured in promotional emails from certain cinemas. The most likely explanation is that cinemas did not get the memo that Rogue Squadron is cancelled. And as for the Disney release schedule, Disney are probably keeping it there to lock the release date in case they want to move a different movie to that slot. December the 22nd, 2023 is currently the listed date, but as I say, extremely unlikely and near impossible that Rogue Squadron is still on the table for that date. But it is interesting they've still kept it on the release schedule. Hopefully we'll get an answer soon, but the next cinematic release is going to be Taika's film. I'm hoping at D23 or Disney Plus Day, Lucasfilm does give us a roadmap of the future of Star Wars movies, not just vague illusions and directors' names, something a bit more concrete. And I know I'm not the only one to say this, but I really miss Star Wars movies, the experience of going to the cinema to see the premiere of a new Star Wars film. I guess the upcoming re-release of Rogue One is going to have to do. And so now, my dear Mandalorians, Star Wars reveals the first look at Han Solo and Leia's wedding, their canon wedding, but we'll get to that distinction in a moment. So two of the most beloved Star Wars characters without a doubt are Han Solo and Leia Organa. We've known for a long time that the two of them end up getting married after the events of Return of the Jedi. But in canon and on screen, the big moment was never seen. In fact, the next piece of on-screen canon storytelling for the duo after the wedding was in The Force Awakens. But unfortunately by that time, the couple was sadly separated. So with the new Star Wars book The Princess and the Scoundrel having just released, new details about the story have made their way online thanks to Entertainment Weekly. First and foremost, we have a brand new image of Han and Leia during their wedding on Endor, in the middle of the ceremony taking place. The art includes the happy couple, Lando Calrissian, Luke Skywalker, the Ewoks, Chewie, R2-D2 and C-3PO. The outlet also provided details for the new story, including how their marriage took place at the Great Tree and the service was officiated by Luke himself. The couple also takes part in some local Ewok marriage customs, thanks to one of the most famous Ewoks and shaman Logray. In addition, it seems as though most of the arrangements of this ceremony were made by none other than Mon Mothma, with Lando Calrissian being Han's best man. Now the reason I say this is the canon version of their marriage is because this is not the first time the story of Han and Leia's marriage was told. Previously in Legends, their union was the focus of a great novel titled The Courtship of Princess Leia. But when Disney came along and stopped the EU, that became non-canon, but now fans will get to learn what really happened in canon on their special day. Now a big question fans might have is why now? Why tell this story now? Well, this book, as well as some other material, has been part of a marketing ploy to push the Halcyon Disney Star Cruiser Hotel, and Disney make no secret of that. As good as I'm sure this book is, personally, and just speaking for myself, it's not something I'm going to go out of my way to read. It's not really my cup of tea, but for those who are interested, the book is out now. But with that said, my dear friends, that brings us to the end of this Star Wars news update. Let me know your thoughts of this and everything we spoke about in the comments down below. As always, if you enjoyed this news update, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and a huge welcome if you are, and if you want more videos not found here on YouTube, then click the link down there in the description. But until the next one, my dear friends, may the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.